Welcome to Final Verdict. I'm Bell.
I'm Jamie.
And I'm Adam.
And this, it's so weird. I'm not used to not hearing an I'm Plouf. It's crazy. This is the first time it clicked
I'm
in.
Plouf.
I'm Plouf Jr.
This is what, episode 11, 12, 13?
Something
whatever
like
it
that.
is. And it's still a little odd, but good to have you here, man.
Yeah,
And
I'm happy
it's
to
good
be here.
to listen to Blonde by Frank Ocean. It's my pick. And we actually talked about him all the way back in season 1 in our biggest purchase regrets episode. But since I knew I wanted to talk about Blonde one day, I was pretty light in my intro, so let me introduce him a bit. Born Christopher Bro?
Question mark?
His last
Bro?
name, is your last name Bro?
Oh, yeah, it's a pretty sweet name. He's more famously known as Frank Ocean, and he is a 36-year-old R&B artist from Long Beach, California. If you're wondering, the name Frank Ocean comes from a combination of Frank Sinatra and the title of Frank Sinatra's movie, Ocean's 11. He also had it legally changed to Frank Ocean in 2015, so he is Frank Ocean. I was going to take it if he wasn't, so I guess smart on him for taking it because it's a pretty sweet name. As mentioned in the favorite artists or favorite albums from college episode, Frank Ocean is or was a member of the rap collective Odd Future with Tyler the Creator, but actually got to start in the music industry by writing music for other artists like Justin Bieber, Beyonce, and John Legend, which is pretty crazy. After releasing Nostalgia Ultra in 2011 to critical acclaim, that's the album we listened to all the way back then, and the famous Channel Orange only a year later, we get to the weird part of Frank Ocean's intro, which is that I'm 90% sure Frank actually hates making music.
Yeah.
Someone on Twitter said the only thing stopping Frank Ocean from being one of the most legendary musicians of the generation is Frank Ocean.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's true.
Absolutely.
In 2016, when he released this album, it was after 4 years of saying, yeah, my album's almost done. It's almost done, man. It's coming soon. 2014 is the year, and it didn't come out. 2015 is a year, it didn't come out. 2016, he drops a visual album, Endless, which is okay.
It's for contractual obligations. Like he legally had to put it out.
I remember the amount of hype around this album at the time because Endless, it was a live stream for a whole week of him building a staircase. But the album's only 45 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
And during that week-long live stream, it played once. So people were just like sitting there watching it, waiting. And he would like come into the room and do some stuff. And then he would leave. And then it was like edited. And then there was like the 45 minutes that was the actual stuff of the album. And it was insane. And I was like, oh my God, there's actually the music. And I was like, oh, that's it. But then the very next day,
he released Blonde under his own label because he owed Def Jam one album. But he hated being with Def Jam, so he released Endless and then released Blonde the day after under Boys Don't Cry, which is his own label, which is crazy. And that's for the best because Blonde is extremely well received and is on a ton of publications, best albums of all time list. And a lot of people say it's one of the best R&B albums of all time, but many outlets actually classify it as avant-garde soul, which I thought was interesting.
Or psychedelic pop.
Sure.
I
don't know if I would say that.
I wouldn't. I don't know, yeah.
I don't know. I've seen it both.
What does Rate Your Music call it? They got the wackiest things.
Oh God.
Apple Music calls it pop. Just straight pop, which is very interesting.
The genres on Rate Your Music always make me kind of laugh.
Chuckle.
They're so specific.
Let's take a look.
On Rate Your Music, Blonde is alternative R&B, art pop, ambient pop, alt pop, neo soul, progressive soul. Those are not as weird as I thought.
No,
sometimes
I thought
they're
they'd be wild. Yeah.
Sometimes they're like butt punk or like
avant-garde chamber pop.
they're like left field classical reductionist, and I'm like, what?
What does that mean?
Yeah, though this album is amazing, we're unfortunately back to the Frank Ocean hates making music point because he's released a few singles over the last 8 years, but he's been pretty much radio silent outside of that. He did play one weekend of Coachella before bailing on the second weekend because of how poorly received his set was. And during that performance, he said, new album's coming. Sure thing, bud. I doubt it. He was a bit of a drama queen. He ended up not even finishing the set.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because he showed up so late.
Yeah, he didn't finish the set and it was like terrible.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. I don't get Frank Ocean.
He's a tortured soul.
Is he?
I don't know. Okay. There's kind of... When I was listening to this album, I kind of had a realization of how similar to D'Angelo Frank Ocean's career has been. D'Angelo comes out in the 90s with an absolutely iconic, beloved, massive sound with a couple of great albums that people are really hyped about.
Name
Brown Sugar
and
then Voodoo.
Okay.
Right? Those are like 4 years apart. He releases nothing for 14 years, comes back with one of the best albums of like 2014, with D'Angelo and the Vanguard, Black Messiah. And Frank Ocean seems the same way, where he's like, I'm going to make music. I'm only going to make music once in a while, but it's going to be some of the best music that will come out that year. It's going to be iconic. It's going to be huge and beloved. And it's crazy that for somebody who doesn't release music every year, how huge Frank Ocean still is, right? Like, so much of like the modern streaming era, you see artists releasing stuff like every single year, months between releases, to keep that kind of relevance going. And Frank Ocean has not needed to do that at all. He's released 2 actual albums. I mean, Endless, I guess.
It's a visual album.
But Endless was also I think it still is only on Apple Music. So I don't think I still think you can't listen to it anywhere, except for maybe there was a limited release on like physical. But it's just it's the power of his music, like the potency. And he still does guests. He pops up everywhere. Like, I don't think there's like been a whole year ever where he hasn't done anything.
Yeah, he like writes songs. He did a popular song with Calvin Harris, and he, like you said, shows up in other songs and is writing for other people. And it is very interesting. I know Aziz Ansari tells a story where he met Frank Ocean. It's like, how do you do it? Like, how do you not release stuff and like just do it when you want to and everything like that? And Frank Ocean goes, you have to be comfortable making less money. It's like, you just got to be comfortable not doing it and like changing lifestyle or whatever that is. You know, you see him on red carpets and doing art, and he's got Boys Don't Cry and Blonded Radio and stuff like that. Like, he's making stuff, but you know, it just seems like maybe he is a bit of a perfectionist, and maybe that's why in 2014 Chance the Rapper and Kendrick Lamar and all these people were like teased to be on the album, and then 2015 it's like, it's going to come this year, and then it doesn't, and then it comes out in 2016, and like all of these features are stripped and they're gone, and the music is different, and there's different versions that he plays live versus recorded on the album, and the CDs that came with the magazine release are different from the vinyls, which are different from the streaming, and now they're all kind of the same. It's kind of like how Kanye West releases The Life of Pablo and then changes it when it's up there, whatever album that was, where he's like changing the upload as it's on Apple Music and like modifying. He did it on Donda.
Patching his album. He did that the first time he did that was for Life of Pablo. Because I remember the iconic tweet, "I'm a fix wolves." Because people were mad that the Frank Ocean feature on that was like it said featuring Frank Ocean, and he like didn't show up on the song or something, and he just like added Frank Ocean's verse in, and it made the song better.
Great album, but it's one of those things where, you know, maybe that's why he talks all about writer's block and how this album was really inspired by the Beatles and how they helped listen to their music again, helped relieve his writer's block. And there's even some direct quotes to Beatles songs in this album. But I don't know, man. It's like release something, man. For a while there, he was releasing like a song every month, and it's like maybe a new album's actually coming.
Yeah.
But that was like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like DHL and In My Room and Chanel, great songs that will, I guess, never have a physical release, because he does limited vinyl releases, but they're extremely limited, and they never ship. His Reddit turned against him because it's like, I spent $100 on a single, and it's been 2 years of saying it's shipped and it's not showing up, and they never reply and stuff like that. Like, there's being enigmatic, and then there's kind of just being disrespectful to your fans of like being so elusive. Like, it stops being cool at one point. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people are at the point where like it's not cool anymore. It's just rude,
annoying. Yeah,
it is
being
like
the aloof artist sucks sometimes. Sorry, go on.
No, I was gonna say, on one hand, you don't owe anything to your fans, but if you're doing commerce, you literally do owe them something. Like if he wasn't releasing stuff and people were just like, oh dang, like that's okay. You don't owe anything to them. But if you're going like, I'm gonna do a concert and you don't perform at it, you do a crappy performance. It's disrespectful, because you wouldn't be at Coachella if it wasn't for the people who listen and love your music.
Well, it's like in the case of the single never showing up, it's like taking a loan from your fans and just never giving them anything in return.
100%. Jamie, what do you think of this album?
I think it's pretty good. I enjoyed it. I've listened to it more than a couple of times now. When this album came out, I knew people at work were talking about listening to it and how it was like really cool, and it was like really neat that he put out a new album. I think he has a beautiful voice on some of the tracks, and I think some of it is spoiled by like the little voice effects that he does.
Mhm.
But he does harmony with himself on a number of the tracks, and that's really cool. That's really hard to do. And I really appreciated that. But I think it's a great sounding album. It sounds very full, very big in some parts, and you put it on vinyl earlier, and it sounds really nice. So it's a decent sounding LP as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I never really realized until this more analytical listen how many similar sounds he uses.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's just like sitting in a room with this guitar and it's him singing over the spacey reverb guitar. But it also does feel so full and well produced, even when it is so stripped back. And, you know, the pitched vocals, which we'll talk about in some songs, I could take it or leave it.
Yeah.
You know, is trying to portray certain things that I think add value to the story being told in some ways.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, I enjoyed it though. It's one of the few times where I got into a record not knowing much about it. I think I said that the last time we reviewed Frank Ocean, but I didn't know much about the artist. I didn't really know much about what I was getting into, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it is quite different from Nostalgia Ultra. That like young, a lot of remixes. You know, there's Coldplay samples and Street Fighter sounds, and it's got kind of a concept, but it's also, I mean, very rough.
This one is very mature sounding.
Yeah, it's been a long time because this would have come out 15 years after. No, not 15. 5 years after. 50.
What is time?
Only 5 years after.
Yeah.
Which is pretty nuts.
Yeah, I remember coming into this record after being a big fan of Channel Orange, which I think is notable for its eclecticism. Like there's so many different things, sounds and styles of music on Channel Orange. But here it's very cohesive. Like there's every single song on this album sounds like a song from this album. It's all core to it with the kind of reverb soaked vocals and effects, the dreamy kind of songwriting, the almost meandering kind of lyricism. It's all so unique, and there's so many weird little touches. Like there's never really, for an album that can go down so smooth, there is so much experimentation on it with weird little sound effects in the background, weird vocal pans, or like those like weird wolf howls that he does that are like all over the album. He's like, woo! And it's just not hitting the note. But for some reason,
it still works.
It hits.
Yeah.
You're like, damn, man, I feel like that too. Like at the end of Solo. We'll talk about it more when we get there.
Yeah, there was a couple, same thing. There's even like other songs playing in the back of some songs. Yeah. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's an interesting layer.
And it works.
It was such a striking album, but I remember first listening to it coming down after a day of enhancement because it just released. It like we didn't expect it. It released and we're like, okay, this is what we're doing for the end of this.
Yeah. And
being like kind of perplexed by it because it was so different from Channel Orange.
Mm-hmm.
But this album really grew on me over the next few listens, and it's quite an incredible piece of art, this whole album.
Yeah, it is very different. It's interesting to see the evolution, especially because like we talked about Tyler the Creator earlier in the season, and you know he's released so much more music over the time, but had that similar development of like a more fun, disjointed albums into more cohesive, emotional albums to changing over. But in Frank Ocean's, you know, he released 2 albums, a mixtape and a visual album. And in that time, there was all that growth, which is really cool to see.
Yeah.
But hey.
Speaking of which, Tyler appears on this album as a writer.
Yeah.
It's very... Looking at the collabs and co-writing on this album, it's very interesting to see how cohesive the album still sounds. Right? Like... A lot of times when you bring in a lot of extra writers, you get that kind of weird kind of grab bag of sound effects. But clearly Frank had a very strong vision for this album, and everyone was like, "Sure, let's figure out how this works."
Yeah, I would love to hear the alternate versions.
Yeah. Oh man, it'd be so cool to if he. I hope that Frank lives a long life, and then when he dies, we get like those like mixes, like with the
You want
Beatles,
the
where
Mac
they,
Miller, where the family just is like, here you go. Here's more stuff. Here's another album of stuff.
Here's like
stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly, and just like it gives us the opportunity to like explore and hear their creative process, because I always find that kind of stuff fascinating.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's boring slop, but like it's the exploration's interesting. I just want to hear how he works.
Well, yeah. Look at Prince as an example. Since Prince died, his family's released like 40 albums of work that, like full albums of work that he finished, and was like, well, maybe one day I'll put that out, and then just never did and died.
Mm-hmm.
That's a weird reclusive artist that we should cover one day too.
Yeah,
the Frank Ocean of rock pop music, I guess. But yeah, weird dude. Frank Ocean, also a weird dude.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's give it one last listen.
Oh yes, please.
One too many years, tattooed eyelids on a facelift. Mind over matter is magic. I do magic. I'm living over city and taking in the homeless sometimes. Been living. I will always love you how I do. Let go of a prayer for you.
Nikes. What a unique start to the album.
Yeah.
With the, again, as mentioned, pitched up vocals.
Yeah.
You know, this is actually the only single from Blonde because it was a surprise drop album. So this song, I guess, as a single, released slightly before the album dropped.
Oh,
Does
okay.
a single have to come out before the album comes out?
No, singles come out after, but it was before, because I remember all of the discussion. I was big into the hip hop heads community on Reddit around this time, and people were like, "What is with the chipmunk vocals?"
Yeah.
And people were releasing remixes of it, the vocals pitched back down to where they were, because they were like, "I don't like this weird thing," and I get it. I was not expecting it, and for such a soulful song to warp your vocals like that, especially with Frank. Well, I think Frank Ocean isn't the most technically strong singer.
Sure.
He's so emotive, and so much of his like passion and soul comes through in his vocals.
His voice is very passionate. So yeah.
It feels weird to like warp it substantially.
Someone said that the warping on the, or like the chipmunk vocals on this album are to evoke a younger Frank.
Yeah, he does it in the next song as well. This one's just a lot more obvious, where the theme is, if he is in the chipmunk or higher pitched voice, it's to be like before fame. So it's a lot of talk about like living in Louisiana, in New Orleans and stuff like that. This song is about materialism, with the lyrics talking about the desire for real brand name shoes, rings, pants, and this hookup culture of your guy isn't around and you're feeling lonely, like I'll be there. And it shows how people value their things more than relationships, which is a thing that's very prevalent in today's culture, and obviously was back in the mid 2000s when Frank would have been, you know, a teenager in his young 20s. But I like my iPhone more than I like you guys, so I get it. You know, I understand.
I too yam from the line.
Instrumentally, I like the clash of the stiff stiff drum machine paired with the floating, reverbing synth. After about 3 minutes of the pitched up voice singing the song, it finally switches back to be Frank's real voice, and it hits every time. As the pitched up vocals are just long enough to where it starts to get annoying to me.
Yes.
Before it switches, and it's like, okay, perfect.
But then he starts harmonizing with himself, which is really cool.
Yeah.
He does this multiple times.
There's also a very subtle female backup singer track that adds just a little bit of texture that I was like, ooh.
Yeah, there's a lot of instances of like uncredited guests on
Beyonce
here.
is an uncredited guest on the song.
Really?
Yeah.
Not on this song, but in Pink and White, I think. I don't know. I have it written down. Beyonce and Kanye West feature on a song.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
there's a lot where it's like,
I know,
whoa.
like in later on, like in Self-Control, randomly, there's like another dude, and I'm like, huh?
Yeah, Young Lean.
Yeah.
It's like they have other rappers just like singing and stuff. And I was like, that's cool.
It's cool. This is also where he does the woo for the first time, the off pitch woo. I'm buzzing.
And I like it because, again, it's like being a kid and like just emoting. Again, it feels very real.
It's funny because I think he does all these soulful things that are like very sexy and cool, and then every so often he'll just say something that's like really like out of pocket, where he's like, I got my balls sticking in my jeans. I'm like, like, okay, less info, please.
Mm.
But it's kind of that almost super vulnerable to a TMI vibe of a lot of the songs where you're like, okay, man, maybe you should keep that thought to yourself.
Yeah, it's like one of the things I liked about I Love You Honey Bear, where it's just like, this is gross but genuine. You know, it makes it the whole thing feel more genuine when you get that real.
Yeah.
I don't think Frank Ocean gets to that point, or even like the Lana Del Rey. I don't think he gets to that point of vulnerability, but I do think there's shades of it from somebody who's notoriously very closed off from the public. Seeing these things are kind of interesting.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the vulnerability is kind of it's masked behind his sometimes very vague poetry, where you're like, I'm not really sure what he's talking about. It's very metaphorical, and it might be kind of hopping from one topic to the other on a kind of more of exploring an emotion rather than a specific narrative. So he's not going like, my mom when I was 4 did this. He's just gonna say some weird stuff about like mothers raising kids, and then he's gonna say some weird something that's like another potent metaphor, you know? Yeah.
And the same thing happens in the next song, Ivy, where, like I mentioned, Lana Del Rey, Frank will just name people. He doesn't really assume that you'll know or maybe not know or whoever. He just like, you know, we're in Sid's in their car, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, if you've been following, you know who Sid is. Or in a later song, he's like, Tyler slept on my couch and stuff like that. So if you follow the group, you know who these people are. But I like the addition and texture of adding these kind of personal touches. But I didn't mention in the intro, Frank is bisexual. And I mentioned it here in Ivy because it's a song about the failures of his first gay relationships, with admissions of feeling shot down, only for the other guy to later admit that they felt the same way and weren't ready to be open about their sexuality, and kind of wrestling with that, where it's like, okay, like now you're kind of dumping this on me now. I guess cool, but it's too late.
Yeah, way too late.
Which I like. I think it's really neat to see that kind of acknowledgement in a song. And he sings about how they had so many good times and often think about them, but how they're different people now. And there's an anger about how you've messed up the situation that they kind of created by not being open in the first place. Instrumentally, though, the song's not anything special. It's just the reverby guitar again that lets Frank, his vocals take the lead.
Yeah, I like the guitar backing on this one. There's 2 different guitars, and they're playing 2 different parts, and it's kind of cool, while also not doing very much. And they let the vocals do the work. And I thought that was kind of neat. It was a nice touch to the song.
Yeah, the vocals are very slightly pitched up in this one. Yeah, which again is kind of like it's a near the past. Yeah, because it's not childhood of living in Louisiana or Houston, but something there where it's like he's 20s, he's out, which is probably around Channel Orange because he came out right before that, which is again kind of interesting to add that history.
Sure,
for those who care, at least. If you don't care,
it
just sounds good. It's not Chipmunky.
He mentions Beamers in this one, BMWs.
He's a big car guy.
He's a BMW enthusiast.
Yes. It is part of the reason why I like BMWs. Seeing the one on Nostalgia Ultra, I was like, that is cool.
Oh, very nice. Yes.
Yeah, I love the way the kind of lower bass guitar. I don't know if it's really a bass. It might just be just the low register of the guitar, but it's like very percussive in the way it's mixed. It has that kind of pulse through it, and I love that there's that focus on the vocals in this because it is a very vulnerable song. And then at the end, they add like these weird like good. There's like the extra things, and then also that weird scream.
Yeah, I'm in trouble. It's a very like Kanye West scream. He always screams like that in songs. But it is an odd end to the song, but not bad. And
then there's a bunch of they drop their guitars. It's all bad. It's like at the end.
Luckily, it's not loud because I always hate when you get something like that. It's like a jump scare. But this is like they're walking away and dropping all their stuff. Yeah. They're very rough on their guitars, though. After this, Pink and White, the first great song on the album, I'd say.
It has over 1 billion plays.
This is
over 1 billion?
1 billion?
Yeah, it has 1 billion plays on Spotify.
That is nuts. And this is a star-studded song. This is produced by Pharrell and features backup singing by Beyonce and gets a couple woos from Kanye West.
Woo!
So when you hear woo, that's Kanye.
That's great.
It's again one of those ones where I wonder if they had bigger parts and they got cut out because like you have Kanye West just going woo.
This song was produced by Pharrell.
Yeah.
No.
Wait.
Of Happy fame.
Yes, the man who gave you such songs as Happy and other songs from the Minions.
Which is so funny because I wonder if Frank is as big of a fan of Pharrell as Tyler is, because I know that was a big thing for Tyler's being like, I love Nerd, I love Pharrell.
It is crazy that this is produced by Pharrell and doesn't start with a 4 count.
Sure.
Because every Pharrell track starts with 1, 2, 3, 4 of like Happy. It's like boom, 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 boom. This is like one of the only tracks I know of that Pharrell has produced that doesn't start with that. That's like his producer tag.
So it was 2 years delayed because Frank had to convince Pharrell let him cut that. He's like, get that out of here, man.
Pharrell's like, no, that's like my thing. That's my thing. He's like, don't you dare. We're gonna start with a.
It's a great little intro string, though.
The song has 1,457,868,000
That's crazy for
plays.
one platform, too.
Yeah.
That's not YouTube. That's not Apple Music. That's not, if people listen to Tidal, the 12 people, you know.
It is easily, I bet you it's like at the top of an R&B playlist.
Probably.
It
feels great. Sure. Like, this song feels great.
It is the most straightforward R&B track on here. This is something that D'Angelo could sing.
Sure, it's got a little string part at the beginning. It's kind of pretty.
The acoustic guitar section that comes in for the second verse, I think it is. Like, it feels great. This makes me want to go out into the sun, stay out late on the beach. Like, it feels like a 6 p.m. on a nice day.
Yeah, except if you think about it, the song's about the passing of someone that was close to him. So it's like it sounds cool, but the lyrics are kind of, they're kind of a lukewarm feeling, I guess.
Yeah, and it's got some really, really nice imagery, even though it is talking like, they're finding the positive in Hurricane Katrina. It's like, we're swimming in the floodwaters, jumping off of milk crates and stuff like that. And him having to move to Houston and giving appreciation to the earth around you and stuff like that. And it's like, it's kind of all over the place, but it's all poetic in such an easy to relate to way where it's like, I didn't live through Hurricane Katrina. Yeah. But even if I don't equate floodlands, I can equate to going to the lake with my family as a kid and jumping off the dock and that feeling of excitement in the summer and staying out late and stuff like that. And again, it has it where it's calling out people that I don't know who Matthew, Shub, and Danny are. But again, I know that feeling of like reconnecting with people and that excitement. It just is so vivid, especially Pink and White. Sunset, it evokes that right away, even in the name. Really, really cool.
Yeah, lyrically, it's just a beautiful, nostalgic song.
Yeah.
The way of storytelling of just kind of like talking about is almost just like little beats. It sounds like he's talking about the whole summer, like one whole summer, but he's just gonna be like, oh yeah, we're jumping into the pool. The older kids are up on the roof, which also feels like a kind of a callback to Super Rich Kids, from his previous album. And it's so just it's such a demonstration of his lyrical talent of evoking those emotions and that sense of storytelling without being like very explicit. And it's such a vibe. This track.
It feels so good. After this, we get Be Yourself, the first of 2 unique interludes.
Spoken word interludes.
Yeah, I don't mind this one because it's not too long. It's pretty cute. It's just a voicemail from the mom of one of Frank's childhood friends. And it's just her telling him not to do drugs and to be himself.
She's so aggressive.
Yeah, do not do drugs.
Don't smoke
do not
weed.
Drink unless it's prescribed by a doctor. But do not drive or get in the car with somebody who's drinking or doing the marijuana because it'll make you stupid, lazy, and unconcerned. Stupid, lazy. She repeats
sluggish.
it to like,
I mean, I think the honestly the most potent part is the unconcerned, because I think that is like an honest negative thing.
It makes you okay being bored.
Yeah, I remember when I watched that South Park episode, and I think Randy
it's
says
in South Park.
Randy is like explained to his kids. He's like the problem. He's like, weed makes you okay with being bored, and I was like, damn, that's true. Yeah, and then I cried. Smoked till I was anxious and cried.
Yeah, it's very cute, very pure. We love Rosie Watson.
Sure.
I don't know.
She seems like a nice mom.
Apparently, she sends us voicemails all the time. She's like, if I call you and you don't answer, I may as well leave you a little message. I'm like, that's so cute. I'm going to do that now.
I hate her. I find this song so annoying. It's so like, stop. I don't want to be chastised by my mom.
How long is it? It's like a minute and 27 seconds. That's not bad.
I do have a voicemail saved on my phone from you. Is you asking where your damn headphones are? I just never deleted it.
To be fair, you didn't look because they were in your couch. So
yeah, I didn't think to look between the couch cushions.
I'm always putting stuff in here.
Yeah.
Well, after this, we get Solo.
Solo.
It's just Frank and an organ. I'm not a huge fan of organ, but it's not bad here.
I love this song.
I like the dramatic pause.
It's so good.
Yeah. It's a song about the moments of being alone, driving home after a party, not showering since you're not seeing anybody, and leaving a Planned Parenthood clinic. Okay, the last one is a little odd, but it's just talking about the lifestyle of not being attached to anyone and acting on impulse and having fun.
Yeah.
It kind of seems positive, but then you realize, like, no, it's depressing. Like, that's not a fun lifestyle to not be attached, to need to be like,
To be
it's
sluggish,
more expensive to not.
lazy, and unconcerned.
Exactly.
Wow.
You know, it's just talking about smoking weed, and it's kind of a double entendre with feeling so low and not solo as in alone, and how it's not really glamorous. It's not super upfront to be like shaming people who live this lifestyle, but I like the kind of undertoned message.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh man, this song's so good. You like literally. It happened at the exact time you said that in my headphones.
I like that he almost hyphenates the word solo so that it
implies to solo and also feeling very low.
Yeah.
Feeling so low.
Also, there's a bull and a matador dueling in the sky. And that's crazy. Oh, that whole vocal line.
Inhale. Inhale.
Inhale.
There's heaven. Because it's inhale. In the actual lyrics, it's inhale. Like
yeah, I thought it was inhale in hell. I thought it was
yeah, so it goes between the two. And it's kind of, again, showing the demonizing part of smoking weed. It's like, it again makes you sluggish, lazy, and unconcerned. I'm just saying. Rosie Watson.
Lady was right.
Jamie, any thoughts?
No, I like the song. I think it's very cool that it's just him and the organ. There's no other backing to it.
No, there's like some subtle vocal swells in the back.
But there's no other like instrumentation, right? So it's really just him and the organ.
Yeah.
Him and him and him.
Him and him and him.
Yeah,
and him.
all those vocal tracks.
Sweet.
Yeah.
The weird whistles. It's such a small song. There's no drums.
Yeah.
It's like a rehearsal for like it's like a psalm.
Mm.
Yeah, sure.
Like it's just like one instrument and vocal.
And then it leads into Skyline 2, a song about end of summer experiences, making love in the moonlight, making love in the sunrise, road trips, and more smoking weed, because this guy loves weed.
Wait, does Frank Ocean like smoking weed?
He also likes recurring reverby guitars that have been coming up through most of the album so far. I do like the spacey synths that are kind of added in around the 2-minute mark.
This song reminds me of Rush's 2112, of the part of the song where they're tuning the guitar in the waterfall. So in Rush's 2112, basically it's about a guy in the future who music has been banned in the future, and the guy discovers a guitar and he's trying to like play it at the start, and he's like sitting under a waterfall trying to like tune the guitar,
Garage?
and there's like all of these like beautiful like kind of like water noises as well as all these bird noises, and this has bird noises and guitar, and that's the only way they're the same.
Hey, you own you own Zappa's Joe's Garage, right?
I don't. Do I own it? I think.
But anyway, that whole album's about music being banned in the future, and they make music in a garage because they discovered how to make music again. Yeah. So is Zappa's Joe's Garage and 2112 the same album?
I would say yes.
Wow,
100%.
crazy.
They are the same album.
Yeah, I like this song. I don't think it's anything really special compared to other songs we've heard so far, but I like the vibe. Interesting fact, Kendrick Lamar is credited on this track as a writer, but he's not on the song because his feature was removed. Also, did you know that Kendrick Lamar's real name is Kendrick Duckworth?
What?
Wild. I only found out because Apple Music lists the writers at the bottom of the lyrics, and it said Kendrick Duckworth.
Have you not listened to Damn?
No. Yeah, I have.
The last song on it is his last name.
Okay, well, why would I assume that's his last name? It's just
because the whole song's about how the song's about his like dad, about his dad, and I don't know. I always thought it was funny.
We haven't done a final verdict yet, so I haven't listened to it analytically. I just listen to music for fun outside of that. But Damn is a great album. And maybe we'll cover it at some point.
Oh, Kendrick
Damn is a great album.
Lamar is his middle name.
Yeah,
Duckworth
Lamar,
is his last name.
Duckworth.
Okay.
Isn't there like a EDM band called Duckworth? Or is that a song?
I don't know.
Pull that up, Jamie. He's too late. It's too late.
Yeah, this is also Tyler the Creator has the writing credit on this track.
Yeah, Tyler Conma.
And I feel like I feel that vibe in the background synths. I just feels like kind of the type of melody and kind of line that
Yeah, it has the more the back kind of gang vocals. Smoke, stronger, smoke. I'm like, maybe that's him. I don't know. It's an interesting vibe for 2016. I don't know what that'd probably be around Flower Boy. So like, it is kind of like a similar vibe. But again, it feels pretty similar to past songs. I don't know how much or like where the influence would have been. But again, maybe it's a cut feature. Who knows? We'll never know.
Yeah, I think this is a very atmospheric track. It's not. There's not really like a chorus. There's not really like the weird rising synths in the background are really, really cool.
It's just like a dark fantasy backtrack. It's like that 80s. You're in a bog in a dark fantasy. It feels good.
There's the evil wizards afoot.
It feels really good. After this, we get Self-Control.
Oh, it's got a goofy voice intro again.
It does. It's way more restrained compared to Nike, though.
Mm-hmm.
The song is about a broken relationship due to his partner not having enough self-control. Again, Frank and some guitar. Yeah. Not bad. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying.
It's a good line.
I love this song.
This song is like one of the clear highlights on this album. It's incredible.
Absolutely.
It used to be my favorite on the album. It's probably one of the ones I've listened to the most. I probably listened to like 100 times, and that's why it slipped. I don't know why it's resonating with me so much.
Yeah.
Frank is a great singer, though. And though I can't really relate directly to the nostalgic lyrics, they do paint enough of a picture of the headspace he was in that I can relate to those kind of feelings.
Yeah.
Whether I was the person who didn't have self-control and lost a relationship, or the other person was, whatever it is, like I can put myself in the shoes of both people in a way that I really enjoyed the lyrics and what they were describing.
His voice changes multiple times.
Yeah.
It changes for like maybe a third time at around 2:05.
Yeah, I like the one that's like around 1 minute and 15 seconds where it's turned into more feminine, and it kind of sounds like he's speaking as this partner that he's left, where she's like, keep a place for me, like, you know, don't give up on me, or whatever it is. And him, it must be odd because he brings up the fact, it's kind of like the Lana Del Rey one where she's like, people see me as this woman who, I don't want to say whore, but she does. So
yeah.
And it's the same thing with Frank Ocean. It's like she sees me like a UFO. She sees me as somebody who's enigmatic, who's restrained and back and hidden away. And, you know, that probably isn't who he is, but he's viewed as that by even his partners that he's with, which must be weird to kind of be forced into that persona, even if it is just a persona. But if I could bottle the last 2 minutes and inject it into my veins, I would die a sad man. And I mean that in a good way. I love the Keep a Place for Me, I guess, chorus by Young Lean and some other guy.
Yeah.
And I Know You Gotta Leave, Take Down Some Summertime. Like, oh, it is just so good and has more of that like howling vocals that kind of sound like a guitar, or a guitar that sounds like vocals. I don't know which it is.
It's
it's like a John Mayer singing guitar.
It is. Yeah.
And which they've collabed before. I mean, maybe it's uncredited, but I love it.
There are over 20 violinists credited on track 7.
Which is Self-Control.
Yeah. I'm just sorry, which is Self-Control. Yeah. There are over 20 of them.
It's just so
and you can
beautiful.
barely hear them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They only come in at the very end. Yeah, I think this song, I also love the meta, like the idea of self-control being not just like, oh, that's just what like love does to you. Like whether that's you lose self-control in terms of overindulging within your love, or you're getting upset and angry. And there's like this kind of like almost a regret to this song. Like the idea is like, I'll sleep in between you. He's like, please just, I know that we're not a thing anymore, but please just let me in. I'll be there. It's nothing. Just let me be part of your life in some way. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Just let me be there. It's like, it's heartbreaking almost.
Even the observations, like there's mentions of drugs, which is like where you would kind of think the overindulgence would be, but it's even like you cut your hair and changed it. Like you used to be blonde. Like so much is changing in you that you used to do this and now you do this and you're wearing this. It just shows that connection that they had to find all of these changes to be a little hard to accept. And that repetitive outro verse that takes almost a minute long is so good. Frank just adds layers and layers and layers of harmonies on top of each other until there's a whole choir of Frank singing for you. And it's so good. I Know You Gotta Leave, but I just want to listen to that all over and over and over and over again. So good. And then we get the little interlude, Good Guy.
Just Frank doing something. There's more to talk about on Self-Control. Slow down.
Oh, please.
Just the build, the slow build over the song where there's going to be like, there's like a kind of bass swell after the second chorus. The extra vocals, that little break from Frank's voice is so crazy, and I think it also adds to that like going both ways with the relationship with their partner. And as you said at the end, the build is incredible, but there's so many moments on this album are so subtle and small but so impactful, like a subtle swell of strings, or the reversed guitars at the end behind the guitar solo.
Yeah, this song has a guitar solo.
Yeah,
like it's so crazy.
Sick. I don't know who plays it.
I'm telling you, it's got to be Mr. John Mayer. But whoever it is, it's truly crazy.
Who does guitar solo on Frank Ocean?
He's asking ChatGPT. It's going to be a fake answer.
Okay, so guitars on this track are played by Malay Ho and Alex Gianascoli.
Sure.
I butchered the crap out of that. And
Jamie, if you're going to speak into the mic.
sorry, Austin Feinstein. He also plays guitars on it. No mention of who does the solo.
Dang.
There are 3 guitars though.
Well, shout out to whoever it was of the 3.
Yeah.
Or the hidden 4th.
Uh,
We'll never know.
which is Frank Ocean. He also plays guitar on this.
Yeah, if he soloed that, that'd be fire. Well, after that, we get a little interlude. Good guy.
Good
Just
guy.
Frank doing some light singing about meeting up with a blind date and realizing that they're different in person over text, and how the differences in personality mean that the relationship won't be more than a one-night stand. It's simple. It's short. I think it's a good transition from self-control into nights.
Absolutely.
Just like
God,
a
it's
good
got
reset.
such a good electric piano part in it.
Yeah, I know, it's so good.
So good.
It's such a great sound.
Yeah. Electric piano is a real choice instrument.
I also like. It sounds like these are like scratch vocals recorded on his phone.
Yeah,
too.
totally. I was about to say. It's like a phone on a table. He's just getting it out.
He did a quick demo.
And again, like the rawness of his vocals as he's like hitting the high notes and doing a little bit of vibrato. I'm like, this is good.
And then like, what happens at the end?
It's just like a conversation. But I think it's,
I ain't got bitches no more.
yeah, it's like a conversation with obviously a straight guy. And maybe it's to show the difference between this blind date he'd had and then sitting in the car with this other person who's talking about Jasmine and how she wrecked his heart. And it is an odd addition. I'm not really 100% sure what it adds, but it's not very long. And again, just adds some texture. I just don't know how necessary, especially because it's cut off for the abrupt start to Nights.
I think I don't know. I think it kind of helps. It cuts the vibe because I think Nights is such a switch from the last 2 songs, from the last like
The beat
chunk
switch.
of the album. Right, like from Solo, Skyline 2, and Self Control to Good Guy, and then it's like Nights. You're like, whoa, drums again, and like,
Yeah, Nights is famous. It's well known for the beat switch at 3:28, and it's actually the center point of the entire album. It's at minute 30 of the 60-minute even album. And I put a clip of it here, but honestly, out of context, it won't sound impressive.
No.
But is this song actually good outside the beat switch? Yes.
Yeah.
I would say Nights is the beginning of the better half of the album. Like pretty much everything after this is fantastic. The first part of the song is a summer party-esque song with guitars, drums, synths, and Frank rapping about partying and with important people doing crime. And then the end of the first half gets a bit darker with him swearing more. It's more aggressive. It's about being stressed and the monotony of working, smoking, sleeping, working, sleeping, working, smoking weed. Like it's just that cycle over and over and over again, and how much it gets to him. I really like the first half. I think it's a good vibe. I prefer the second half, but the first half is quite good.
Yeah, I like that it switches tempo and beat halfway through. I think around like 3:15, it does some really cool stuff.
Yeah, like right before the beat switch, it gets pretty all over the place.
the bridge, or I don't know. I guess it's because not really a chorus. It's kind of a break into the chorus because the verse, you move away from the verse and it goes to that every day, every night.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, and that like little, there's this weird like, there's so much cool production hits and like little notes on this album. It's constant. It's a very rewarding album to listen to because it keeps giving you little tidbits to capture every single time you're listening to it. And it also can just be a vibe album. Like, oh, the way that synth slides in the middle. Ooh.
Man, the beat switch really is good. I love that repetitive guitar, that do 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 to like a phone ringing, like an old phone, and immediately changes to this airy, very spacious piano with the crispy drum machine, and it feels so good. And it starts with again talking about this party lifestyle. It's more introspective. It's singing about how things were hard moving to Houston after Hurricane Katrina and having to stay at people's apartments since he didn't have a place to live. And it has the same chorus as the first half, but it has a shift in tone. It doesn't feel as resentful and angry about the pattern of work, sleep, work, sleep. Because at this part of the song, if he hasn't really experienced success yet, it feels like the first half is, I'm successful, I have money, I'm partying, I'm doing stuff. And this one is, I'm trying to survive. I've survived a tragedy. I'm on the up and coming. This pattern is just what I have to do to survive. Very, very good.
Yeah, this is such a great song. The cool like ad libs in the background too. It's like conversational. So it feels like he's having a party by himself. In the background, there's like oh yeah. He's just like oh yeah in the background.
Yeah, do that again. Oh yeah, he's like fire.
Yeah,
fire, massive.
And it's. I can't say I feel like it's so cohesive for some reason, despite being these two very obviously separate parts. It's like the song requires these parts to really hit. It requires both halves to really work. Because it feels like to me the first half is him talking about the night, and then the second half it's at night, right?
But like the first half of the song has that. It feels because the first half has a tone change before even the beat switch.
Yeah.
So it's like 3 chunks.
It's like,
but then you go back in time for the second half.
It's like daytime, sundown, chaos for a little bit, 4 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., pitch black. You're in the dark, driving with the street lights.
Yeah, it's a really good song. It surprises me that this is one of the more well-known, maybe not well-listened, but well-known songs. But that being said, I get excited when I hear it because I know I'm in for a treat with the next chunk of songs.
It is one of the more well-listened songs. It has 754 million plays.
Because of that beat switch.
Because the beat switch.
This is also the end of the first disc. So this will be side B, the end of it. And the next disc starts with Solo Reprise.
Which is funny because musically it is not a reprise at all. Yeah. It is a completely different song.
Yeah, just the same topic.
Yeah.
Which basically is the word solo.
And all the lyrics are by our friend Andre 3000.
Yeah, this is the only song without Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get a fire rap for Andre 3000, which this has to be one of the last songs with Andre rapping now that he makes flute music.
He is constantly showing up to do like a verse every
4 years.
12 to 9 months.
Yeah.
He does like one thing. He'll come in and just
blow
flautist. Everyone away. And now he's making flute music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is an alternate take of their earlier song, Solo, obviously, but this one leads into it being so low, not solo, with a lot of things about height, about feeling bad, bending over. Like it's a lot of things about being small, which I like. I like this version more. I like how he talks about things being so bad that kids being shot in the street is a normal occurrence now, and women and money aren't exciting. And this disillusionment of working in the music industry and realizing that people aren't doing their own stuff, like it's all ghostwriters, and maybe he's doing too much. And it feels very fast. It's very tight, and it transitions into the chaotic intro pretty sweet, really well. It's really good.
There's so much to dissect in that verse. There's so many. It's just Andre 3000 is one of the best rappers of all time, bar none. His pen game is incredible. His flows are ridiculous. The amount of like double entendres on this track, the topics that he decides to cover quickly about being fake, but also admitting that he doesn't understand. Like he's like talking about like women with plastic surgery, but he also doesn't understand because he's never been in the position of a woman. He like somehow covers both of that. He's like, I don't understand this. I think it's weird. I'm tired of people being fake. I'm tired of people writing fake or getting ghostwriters. He's like, back in my day, I did everything to get where I was, and if people these days are getting ghostwriters to like, and you know, basically he's like calling out Drake.
Yeah, he has said it was not directly Drake.
No, he was calling out
it does affect
many
Drake.
people in the industry at the time.
Yeah, because people ask him, and he's like, no, like maybe that applies to him, but it's not a direct knock.
Yeah, it wasn't
at
a
him.
direct hit on anyone.
Yeah. It is true. He hits a lot of things, and somehow in like the 7 lines of each verse, he like completes a thought. Like you said, I really liked the talking about women getting work done and him being like, I'm sorry if I'm insensitive. Like, I don't know what it's like. It's like an interesting thing to bring it up and then be like, but I don't know.
Also, that piano, that it just goes to this glitchy beat. It's so crazy. It's so like completely unexpected on what has been such a smooth and nice sounding album to get that sick little like chromatic little beat. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good.
It's one of my favorite. This is one of the highlights of the album for me. It's just this. It's like, oh, and now for something very different.
Speak of the devil. The next song, Pretty Sweet. Is it like if you said, what if Frank Ocean made the scary parts of A Day in the Life by the Beatles?
Well, what I described this album as blarfcore.
This album or this song?
This particular song.
Yeah. Sure. I like it as a sort of long interlude. The lyrics are pretty obtuse, but things flow and sound really pleasing.
Yes.
I also like the way he rushes some lines. Like he is squeezing in words to some lines, and then others he really draws it out and lets it hit.
Yeah.
And the children's chorus at the end is a fun touch. This isn't a song I would skip, but it's not one I would really ever remember that is on this album, other than the fact that it's like the scary part of A Day in the Life by the Beatles.
Yeah, I described the end half as being like going full Ridge Racer in his
The
like,
drum and bass. Yeah.
yeah.
This song is so cool. I think it's like, again, that scary intro, the emotions on it. This is what I'm saying when it's like, it's such a weirdly experimental album where it's like, yeah, we're just going to toss this song that is kind of formless, but has a lot of forward movement in it. And also it's weird because, maybe this is an interlude, but like we've kind of had like 3 interludes in a row. So it's this kind of like formless dreamscape that's kind of, I think, like forms the back half of the album. That's really, really cool. And the production on this track is just
so good.
It's wild. It's unhinged.
It's
And
like,
like
whoa.
it's so cool. I don't know what the song's about in the slightest.
Me neither. We know you're sugar. Apparently that is a thing they'd say in the South, but being like you're gay.
Oh.
So maybe that's recalling things that he was said when he was young. Apparently his dad was not very nice to him when he was like 6. He was like being insulted by his dad for being sugar.
Fruity. Yeah.
So I don't know, but it is cool. And then we're followed up by the worst thing on this album.
God
Facebook
almighty.
story.
This song is
sucks.
so dated.
I hate this guy. He was 100% hiding something from his girlfriend. For context, this is another interlude like Be Yourself, but this time it's a French guy telling a story about how his ex-girlfriend wanted him to accept her on Facebook, but he refused to do it, so she thought he was cheating and broke up with him. They were dating for 3 years. Just add her, bro. Who cares? I don't like. We could duck in person.
He's like,
Great.
She's so insecure. She
got crazy.
Adds her on the Facebook.
He calls her crazy and stuff. I'm like, dude, you're the problem.
Yeah.
Just add her. Don't
If
even
she
talk.
cares that much,
Okay, here's
just
why.
do it. It takes so little effort.
Seriously,
Here's why this song is dated. No one cares about Facebook anymore.
you'd be surprised, man.
Oh God, nobody cares about Facebook.
Even in
anymore.
2016, I think people did not care that much about relationship status anymore.
Or like even if you had one, there was a point in time where it was socially unacceptable to not have one. But
Shay
now,
and I are still not official on Facebook.
crazy.
That's messed up.
We never will be.
I only have a
Because-
Facebook account to buy stuff off Marketplace.
Me too.
'cause
Mine's
nobody
completely cleared.
uses Craigslist.
But if
out
you
here.
added me, I would add you, even though my Facebook page is completely stripped just for Marketplace.
Yeah.
I would do it because who cares?
Yeah.
I would be 100% sus if my partner was like, I actively do not want to add you on Facebook. I'd be like, why?
Yeah, if it was like,
Yes.
What are you hiding?
Yes.
Especially if it
The
was-
situation here is insane.
if it was important to them, especially after if this was 3 months and it was a big deal to them, okay, sure, whatever. But you've been together for 3 years and you're like, I'm going to break up with them. It's the most, and Frank's like, yeah, this is on the album. And I don't know if he's like, yeah, I agree with this and people should think this, or if he's like,
This is a weird story. I'd like to include this. Yeah.
I'm an asshole. I feel like this. Because like this is, I go, okay, I see how Frank's an asshole if he thinks that this is a,
It is hard to tell. It's like, what side is he taking? Or is he taking no side and he just knows it's divisive and wants to put it out there in the universe? I don't know, but that guy is a tool.
Yeah. I think it really just sets up the next song,
I agree.
which is the antithesis of this.
Close to You, another short song, but I also wrote, it feels connected to Facebook story with the lyrics being about being broken up with by someone, feeling sad and lonely, but not devastated.
Yeah.
It's like, I think at some point he talks about like, it feels selfish. Like you left, we didn't hold hands. It's just over. And I have what's left. And I really like that idea of like, I've been in relationships where you go through a breakup and it's like, this sucks, but I'm not going to die. Like I'm just sad because I'm lonely now, which is probably how the French guy felt in the last one, where it's like, okay, I guess we're broken up and that sucks, but that is what it is. I love the vibe of this song. I so dearly wish it was longer than a minute and a half. The slight vocoder effect on the vocals, the layers of all the vocals, the warmth of the synths, the crispy drums, the distorted Stevie Wonder sample in the background. Yeah. It comes together so good. In this last listen I've done for reviewing this is the song I put on repeat and listen to the most.
Certainly,
it is so good.
It's very good, yeah.
I love that robotic effect they do at the very, very end of the song. It's just so good.
Yeah, this song's... I have nothing else to say because I fully agree. This song's dope.
Great, because we should talk about White Ferrari, which is another fantastic track. It's been my most recent favorite Frank Ocean song, and it's one I listen to a lot in Japan. So now whenever I listen to it, I feel like I'm on a train.
Okay.
It's so emotionally heavy, and it comes out in the production. Again, the layers, the synths, the deep in the background, there's little sounds relating to the lyrics. Mm-hmm. So like other songs, there's other songs playing in the background when they're talking about going for a drive. They talk about them leaving the car in silence, and you can hear the chime of the door open alarm in the background. It's so cool. It's so cool to be that bold with your production, to be like, I'm just going to throw another song in the back a little bit. Just really deep in there for those listening with headphones. It's like, oh, that's cool. And if I could bottle the section from 2 minutes to like 2:40, I would love it. Which is just him really raw singing with an acoustic guitar. It's like, how do you go from all these synths and digital and production, and you just strip it back in a way that still feels like the same song, to just him singing with an acoustic guitar? It's really neat. There's even like barking, which just adds an intensity to this. It's kind of like when we talked about Nick Hakim, where it's like you can just feel like turmoil. You don't know why, and he's not really describing things, but you can feel distress. And I kind of feel that in that section, where it's like you can just feel the pain of what he's singing. Yeah, even though the lyrics aren't necessarily saying anything super open or traumatic or whatever it is.
This particular song is credited to Frank Ocean and
Kanye West,
John Lennon, and Paul McCartney, because it interpolates the song here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, there's a line from here, there, everywhere. The last part of the song.
It's crazy you have to pay John. It's crazy you have to pay those guys because you say one sentence of one song. It's so stupid. I hate copyright.
He probably chose to, because he was pretty open about the fact that listening to the Beatles fixed his writer's block, and like and Day in the Life kind of inspired Pretty Sweet and stuff like that.
It's like it's cool, but it's just dumb. That you can't just be like, I made a reference to this song. It's explicit. People who know, and now I have to pay them a portion of the money I earned. They didn't write the song. I referenced their thing.
They wrote the thing that you're referencing.
I don't care.
John Lennon also didn't write the song at all. It was only Paul McCartney.
No, it was only Paul McCartney, but they had a writing.
I have a big problem with like copyrights on interpolations. It's like, you also didn't if you use a major scale in your song, do you owe everybody who's done the major scale? There's so many like little, it's a sentence. It's a single sentence. It's like,
and it's not even one that people
dumb
would
as hell.
know.
We'll talk about this on another album.
Yeah, people don't even really necessarily know that one of the lines is the Beatles song. Like it's not like hey Jude.
Yeah, right.
It's like I just think there was such a core section of such a core part of like music and performance back in the day was about, you'd reference something. You'd be like, hey, it'd be cool if I just sneak that little melody into this solo, and people would be like, whoa, that's really fun. And it's the same thing with like DJing and remixing. You go to the club and you hear a song that you love, but it's in a different version. It's really cool. And it's a different experience from that song you love. But like, I find it so frustrating that you have to pay somebody to use the smallest thing, even if it's just like an acknowledgement. Like on a previous episode, Danny Brown's with Atrocity Exhibition, Andre 3000 gets a writing credit, and Big Boy get a writing credit because he references Bombs Over Baghdad. Yeah. But it's just a reference. Andre 3000 and Big Boy did not lose money from me listening to that song, because I did not listen to that song instead of listening to Bombs Over Baghdad, because I just wanted to hear him say cure for cancer, cure for AIDS.
I was going to say, saying spending each day of the year does not make me go, I've listened to You're There Everywhere by the Beatles.
Finally, yeah.
Like literally that's a sentence someone would say.
Yeah.
Spending each day of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, in another episode, we talked about the Beastie Boys album Paul's Boutique, which has like 300 samples in it.
Yeah, that was before they had any like.
And then
There
they
was
got
copyright
sued
system.
by the Beatles
Yeah.
because
Or like the Verve, Bittersweet
Oh,
Symphony.
Bittersweet Symphony, yeah.
that's just straight ripped off of the.
But
They just took
yeah.
the instruments.
They took a track of a cover that doesn't sound that much like
No, it doesn't
the
sound like
original
the last
song by the
time,
Rolling
yeah.
Stones. I didn't even know that was a connection.
Yeah.
Did the people who write the cover get any of the money? No, it went all to the Rolling Stones
Yeah.
for a song that sounds nothing like the song it was from.
You know why? Because the guy who
He's the biggest asshole in the music industry was their manager.
was was their manager, yeah. And so to get easy listening money from Rolling Stones song, he had some orchestra like do orchestral versions of
But it's like
Rolling
even the
Stones
orchestral
songs.
version of what is it? That's the last time.
yeah.
Like it doesn't sound that much like it's
No,
the
not
guitar,
really
but
at
it's
all.
so slow that it doesn't sound like the original
Yeah.
song. And then the Verve completely changed it. And for some reason, they didn't get any money for until like 2017 or
Yeah,
something.
when the Rolling Stones reversed it, yeah.
I hate music copyright.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the last minute of this song is Frank singing with a pitch down vocals, and I think it works well.
Yeah.
I assume that it's supposed to represent Frank's future, since in the past, high pitch was the past, and in this one, he's down pitched and singing about how they're tired and achy now, him and his partner, and how they can go away on vacation, but they're okay just staying home together. I think it's a very pretty kind of end to this song that I cannot recommend it enough. Like the evolution of this song is just so cool to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an incredibly beautiful, beautiful track.
Mm-hmm.
And then he follows it up with another beautiful track, Siegfried, which is my actual favorite song on the album and one of my favorite songs of all time.
The story is extremely hard to follow on this track, though. I have no idea what it's about.
Yeah, the lyrics are vague. They're beautifully descriptive,
Yeah.
and it describes a partner, the fear of lack of desire of the American dream, the uncertainty of the future, and then poetic musings of meditation and appreciating moments as we're in them, as everything can come crashing down in a moment. It's like just dreamy vagueness. It makes it so you can kind of relate to something in the song at some point, even if you don't directly relate to what they're saying. The mood still draws me in, like this picturing someone's skin and the freckles on it and like the earrings and how beautiful they are, or whatever it is. Like there's something you can kind of grab it and get a picture in your head of maybe someone in your life, or even just that feeling and emotion of being so attached to someone that you're focused on every single part about them. It just works perfect for me. And again, the focus is on Frank's voice. We're back to just guitar and Frank, and it works really well for me. There's stuff I can relate to that I don't want to get into in a podcast with two of my closest friends, because the dozens, the hundreds, the thousands of people listening maybe don't need to know about me, but there's fears and things mentioned this that I'm like, yeah, like it's nice to feel that other people think and feel those things.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah. This is a personal favorite on the album for me. The like dreamy guitars, the subtle touches. Like there's like, instead of the guitar sliding to a chord, they just pitch it. They just slide the pitch, and it's really cool and really dreamy. And it's just another example of so many of these interesting production hits all over the album. And I love the way his voice cracks on the like, I'd rather live outside. It's like, it's so powerful. Another example of his performance. And the keys, the weird
strings.
Sliding whistles, the strings are so
the strings
good.
about halfway through are
And this is
great.
another one where there's like some indiscernible samples used just to add depth. It's like all of a sudden you just hear like a random female track playing something almost completely different. It just adds to the warmth, the little vocalizations. It's a treat for those who are willing to listen deeply and immerse themselves in the song. And if you don't want to, just listen to Frank and the guitar, and it's just as good. Like it is so, so good. And it's funny because I don't have a lot to share, but it is one of my favorites.
Yeah,
It's something I
very
listen
pretty.
to so much.
Yeah.
If you like emotional songs or are sad, listen to that song. It's so good.
Also, the like at the outro, the like almost, he's almost shy to say that, to admit. He's like, I do, and then it's like that high pitched, distant, like anything.
In the dark.
He's like, he doesn't want to admit that he'd do it, whether he's shy or scared of saying that.
Mm-hmm.
He's embarrassed. It says you can read it in so many ways.
Yeah, I love the In the Dark too, because it's like I would do anything for you without anyone knowing it was me.
Yeah.
without you knowing it's me, without anyone else. I would do it in the dark. Like, I love, it's just so beautiful to be like, I just want you to be happy. So touching.
Yeah. And then we move into Godspeed, which I think is just an incredible addition to what is probably just an incredible 3-track run.
Truly. The one last listen, it's these 3 songs. It's White Ferrari, Siegfried, and Godspeed.
Sure.
Crazy 3 tracks back to back.
Yeah.
This is actually one where I might prefer a cover, which is James Blake does a version of this song.
Oh.
And it
really?
is so good. If Frank didn't just have, again, allowing his vocals to peak and crack and be imperfect, which I really like.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so good. It is so good.
And Blake actually produced this track. He's one of the producers on this track.
that
interesting.
tracks.
Yeah.
I like the little gospel-y singing in the end.
Mhm.
Very nice.
Yeah, Kim Burrell. Very, very good. You know, it's very emotional. It's beautiful. He wants to make sure that you're feeling some type of way. It's very biblical feeling with the main instrument being organs, and there's, a backing choir a couple times. There's also a couple biblical references, but for the anti-religious types, they aren't in your face. Like, you would only know if you have read the Bible, so it's not offensive. And the song is just about an amicable breakup where Frank sings about how he's always going to love them. He wishes them the best and will be there for them when things get hard.
Yeah.
Just not in that way anymore, which is, again, kind of a nice, there's a lot of heartbreak songs in this, but this is a more positive one where it's like both of them are just best friends, and it's, again, something very, very touching. The last minute's a little odd with it being the sped up recording as gospel singer Kim Burrell vocalizes over it. I could go without it, to be honest, but it's a vibe. I think if the album ended with it, I'd be like, okay. But it doesn't end with this song, so I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah, but I agree that the ending, it just feels kind of sloppy and inconsequential. It just doesn't feel, out of all of the experimentation on this album, it just feels like the one that has the least intent.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like to take a voice like Kim Burrell and to kind of, I don't know, it's almost like rude to be like, come guess my album. You're wonky. Like, it's just, yeah, I wish it was different.
Yeah. But it's not. And it's not even the last song. Because after, you get Futura Free, which is a font.
Which is a font, yeah.
The one Stanley Kubrick loves. You know what? This song is not bad. It is not great, though. It starts off with weirdly pitched Frank talk rapping about how if he could eat and have sex 3 times a day, he'd be happy. He talks about calling his mom to let her know that he makes good money now. And since the talk is immature and weirdly pitched, I assume this is early into his success, probably around Nostalgia Ultra. It's funny because it's very different from who Frank is known to be now, with the quiet, enigmatic type. And it's funny to think about how at one point he was just like a horny 20-year-old who was stoked to be making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Which, I mean, I'd be stoked to make $100,000, but
Likewise.
he doesn't flaunt it now like he might have back then.
I like that he uses the line, "Gonna let my nuts hang."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good line.
He's like, I'm going to run this stuff. I'm going to run it to the ground, mama. The whole galaxy. Like, very cocky, which is, again, not something that we see or that Frank lets us see very often.
Yeah, I really love the kind of intro. This, like, it feels, the way that he's framed it in that, with the pitched vocals to make him sound younger, kind of shows that, like, on one hand, it's like, yes, you have done it, Frank. You have made it. I'm so happy. And that kind of pride. But to show it going too far.
Yeah, he doesn't need to be that cocky.
Is great. But he's like, I feel like I'm a god. I'm not a god. But here's what I would do. But if I was a god, let me talk about it. Like, let me just, it's also like, it's probably the most grounded chord progression on this entire album. Like, it's just the pianos playing chords on the beat, which is almost nice after kind of what a floaty and dreamy album to have, like this landing point at the end of this album, where he's like, you know what, I'm gonna be okay. I've made it. But in typical Blonde fashion, we don't stay in it too long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he slowly transitions back to more regular vocals, which again shows that transition from that cockiness to the more grounded person he is now. But even then, he's saying funny things. He's like bragging about not having a job. He doesn't have a schedule anymore. And how he feels like Selena, who was murdered and stuff like that. And it's interesting to see that switch over. It takes like 40 seconds transitioning between the vocal types. And he talks about like Tyler the Creator needed to stay at his apartment in the early days of his career and how they both make money and are different now. And it's interesting. Again, It's not my favorite, but it's not bad.
I think to me, it's kind of like almost a triumphant end to this introspective album. But it kind of just devolves into like the noise. I remember being really excited about this track because I was like, oh man, Pyramids on his last album, which was like a 9-minute track as well. I was like, that was such a tasty freaking track. I can't wait to see what he does with another 9-minute track on here. Yeah. And he just made like a 3-minute song.
Yeah, it's 4 minutes and 40 seconds. Then you get 30 seconds of silence. And then you get the hidden kind of track, Interviews.
Yeah.
And Interviews is just clips from an interview done for Frank's magazine, Boys Don't Cry. And it's mostly just Frank's younger brother and some other friends answering questions. It's hard to listen to because they're just on the street and the road noise is so loud. It's a vibe, but after how emotional the album is, I don't really like it. Sadly, Frank's brother, Ryan, passed away in 2020 at 18 after him and his friend got in a car crash, which kind of just afterwards adds a lot to this, where it's like this interview with Ryan who dies just a couple of years later. Well, I guess a few years later, but it makes this a bit of a, what do they call that? A time capsule. It makes it a time capsule for this kind of chunk of Frank's life. But it wasn't intended at the time because Ryan was alive. It's just a weird chunk with like the same backing track as Be Yourself and Facebook Story, which just feels like a Kevin MacLeod default piano line. We never really mentioned the other ones, but it's not a good piano line or anything like that. But it's really hard to listen to.
It's just a weird. I don't really get it. Is the thing. Like if I was like, oh, this is a really weird and maybe unpleasant to listen to outro, I wouldn't be so opposed. But I just don't get why it's there, and also the conversation at the end doesn't make sense. I don't know. It's
yeah, just talking about like what superpowers they would have, and like if you could be anyone else, who would you be?
Do you have a secret talent? I played the theremin or whatever.
Yeah, Frank says that. He's like, I played the theremin, which he did not use on this album.
Which I want to see him. I want to see him do.
That sounds really cool.
If Andre can do a flute album, I think Frank should be able to do a theremin album.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to add. I forgot. I had it in my notes. On Siegfried, Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead does the string arrangement.
Oh. So, he's incredible. He's such a great composer.
Yeah.
Johnny Greenwood. I love his.
I like Johnny Greenwood, but I'm not a huge fan of Radiohead.
That's insane.
That's messed up.
That's
man.
insane.
I like their first 2 albums.
Of course. You like Pablo Honey?
No, I don't like that one. I like the one that's popular. And then
OK Computer?
You like The Bends and OK Computer?
Yeah.
You don't like In Rainbows?
No, I don't like that.
Go listen to that
How do you
episode.
not like In Rainbows?
I know,
fine.
he's absolutely
I'm not a huge
I
fan.
feel like
I remember listening to that. I remember like being actively angry in my car listening to the In Rainbows episode.
I'm not a huge fan of it.
I think I got shamed into lowering it a couple positions because I was like, am I wrong for liking In Rainbows?
Yeah, you're wrong for liking In Rainbows.
No, if we covered In Rainbows, it would probably be at the top of the list and stay at the top of the list no matter what we listen to.
Well, let me tell you about Blonde.
Let me tell you something.
The record. On the cover, we get Frank in a shower. He is wet. He is covering his face. He's got a bandage on his finger. He's got green hair, short hair, and it's blonde with an E on the end, which is not what it is on the digital version. But it is how it's spelt on the like all the releases, which is interesting.
Like the listing, if I look at the cover says Blonde. It's the masculine version of Blonde, but then the album's the female version of Blonde. You also don't have the parental advisory or the barcode on the front.
No, so this is straight from Frank's store. Maybe they get away from stuff like that because on the back it's not there either. On the back it is just simple black text, white back. It says Blonde, Frank Ocean, then the track listings. This is a 2022 pressing, but I only got it late last year, maybe this year. But it has all the track lengths as well. If we open it up, because it's a gatefold,
wow,
we get a blurry picture of Frank in a motorcycle helmet This was the CD cover or an alternate cover. It's just really blurry, so you can't actually see it, and it's zoomed in compared to the actual release. On the other side, it says Blonde 2016. When we get into the inside, it has a lot of stuff.
Ooh,
So taking this out,
nice sleeves.
we have a picture, which is a poster.
Ooh.
We have Frank,
Whoa.
a blurry picture of Frank. It's hard to show because you can see through it,
Very
but it's
thin.
shirtless, Frank, blurry. On the other side, we have a friggin' trippy photo of the guy from Succession.
His solitaire froze. Yeah, why is Kendall Roy there?
And yeah, it looks like when you win solitaire and all the cards go everywhere, but it's a picture of
What?
a guy from Succession.
Why is it Jeremy Strong? Like, what is he?
That's his name.
Jeremy Strong. I don't know, but it's neat. I like the picture of Frank more if I were to hang it up. It is neat. The record itself, black, kind of an off yellow label with the track names and lengths.
The folder, or sorry, the sleeve matches the color of the label.
Yeah, it's like you said folder, but it kind of matches that old
Yeah,
folder
like a middle
color.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
On the other side, we
Oh.
have another poster, but it's the track lyrics, but they are gradiented out, so you can't actually read them all. And there's
Cool.
text that goes through them all. It's a triple fold.
My God.
I think it's everywhere that it's recorded,
Oh,
but
it's like his
also not,
hair.
because the pink, it says like studio, cedar establishments that will remain unnamed or forgotten. One liver filtering 492 liters of alcohol at the bar in plastic purple. 13,000 on all black designer clothes. 18 flights to Berlin for club. 2, and in parentheses, 2, spelt out. Devastating heartbreaks. The third wasn't. So maybe it's like the stuff that inspired him. I don't really know. But it's like a lot of text. It's very cool looking. It's not cool enough that I put this on a wall, but it is
No.
very cool. It does also have the credits of who wrote stuff. Interestingly enough, Kendrick is not credited on this, though he is on Apple Music and stuff like that. So again, it kind of shows that some of these features that are listed online are from old versions that were going to have features
Oh, I
that
see.
were
Yeah.
removed. So you get quite a lot, which is neat. This is the second copy I had, because I had the bootleg that I bought online that had like other tracks on it and didn't sound great.
Oh,
This legit copy cost me $120 Canadian shipped. I got it a while back when it was really hard to get.
Yeah, Blonde was like a real grail for a lot
He
of
released
people.
it on Black Friday of 2016, or maybe 2017, and then like never released it again. And then he released it, I want to say last summer. He just like posted on his story being like, get it now. And I didn't get it. A friend of the podcast, well, you know, because of this story, only acquaintance of the podcast, Jeff was like, I got it. I'm like, got what? He's like, the Blonded drop. I'm like, why didn't you tell me or get me one, bro?
Wow.
And then like 6 months later, he did it again. He just dropped on a story, hey, there's some available. So I bought one and actually got it. Now you can get it pretty regularly. It's just a 4 to 6 week wait. And with the state of his store, who knows if you'll actually ever
yeah. If
get
you
it.
actually get one, yeah.
But let's talk vinyl verdicts. Jamie, why don't you start us off? What's your vinyl verdict?
Man, I've never really considered Frank Ocean to be something that I would enjoy listening to, but I really enjoyed it. And going back, I listened to a little bit of Nostalgia Ultra as well, and I kind of enjoyed that too. So to keep things brief, we have our new number 4.
Wow.
It is going above Weezer's The Blue Album and below Lana Del Rey's Did You Know There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard, which is a
Good
very long
company.
title.
Good
What's up?
company. That's good company.
Yeah, it's nice company, isn't it? I liked it. I would listen to more. But Frank Ocean will never make any more, so I don't have to
You could
listen to
always
anything.
listen to Channel Orange.
It is very
It's
different.
also a good album, though. It's also very good.
It is good.
It is all right.
It's,
I am not
the
as big of a
highlights.
fan.
The highlights on it are very high.
Oh, yes. Very.
And
I
then
agree.
there's some weird other things.
It's a little goofier. Maybe that's why I'm not as huge of a fan. But I told the story earlier in the previous episode, but Channel Orange is the album that I saw Frank perform live in 2014, and I was like, this is really good. But it is quite different. Adam, what's your vinyl verdict?
There's a reason why this was Pitchfork's album of the decade for the 2010s.
Which is
And
funny. They gave it number 2 on their best of 2016 and 2016. I
mean,
was like, huh?
well,
doesn't
you know,
understand it.
things age. Right?
Solange's did not
Differently.
age as well, I guess. Because I think Solange
Solange is
won,
on like 10. Yeah, Solange was that year, but she's still on the top. Pitchfork really liked that album. I don't quite vibe with that album, but I think that Solange does not get enough attention compared to Beyonce.
Sorry, I digressed you.
Yes, you digressed me.
Get
let's
digressed.
regress now. Yeah, Blonde is a phenomenal artistic statement that, despite its long list of collaborators, remains truly, truly cohesive. And I think it shows that Frank is a artistic visionary that is kind of unparalleled. He's in his own lane and does his own thing with such confidence, and it makes me really excited for whenever he's ready to drop another thing. I am looking forward to it. This album has never quite... I feel like I almost respect this album more than I like it. I just don't find myself returning to the vibe that often, like to listen to it that often, but I still think it is an absolutely excellent album, and I would recommend anybody who is interested in music check it out. It is one of the most important, maybe not important or influential, but it is one of the best albums of the past 20 years easily, and everybody who cares should check that out. For me, as I said, I think I respect it more than I like it, which is why it is ending up in my number 3 spot.
Oh, very similar.
Under just above Weezer and under Carly Rae Jepsen's Emotion.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah.
This album has a bit of a slow start, but that slow start is still better than a lot of other R&B albums I've listened to. The album is an emotional journey if you let yourself sink into it, and if you won't let yourself feel bad, it's still an amazing album production-wise, and the varying vibes and tones make it an album playable in any season, which we all know makes me give albums bonus points. A lot of people talk about how Blonde is one of the best albums of all time, and I have to say that they're not being hyperbolic. If, like the album I Love You, Honey Bear, and Ziggy Stardust, this is a must-listen album for me, and it's obviously the top spot above Being So Normal by Peach Pit. Just imagine this album had Tommy's Party. That'd be crazy. This will be a tough one to dethrone, but it's not impossible. Like, I've been listening to this album like monthly since it came out in 2016, and it's still this good to me. But there's a chance something fresh comes in and sweeps me off my feet. Like, the record package is good, but not amazing. Like, obviously the record sounds good and it's cool, but it was expensive. So I'm excited to see if something ends up taking this out of the top spot. Maybe that'll be next week's pick, Jamie. What is it?
Oh, we're listening to the Dave Brubeck's. Sorry, let's try that again. The Dave Brubeck Quartet's Time Out.
It will not dethrone Blonde, but I mean, maybe. I'm excited. I've never listened to Dave Brubeck. I do not listen to a lot of jazz other than when you made me listen to Miles Davis.
Oh, God, that was so good.
Which came out the same year as
Yeah.
Time Out.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow, if I'd known that,
Yeah.
I would be a whole different level of excited. I would have given Miles Davis extra points to be like, he was competing with Dave Brubeck, let me tell you. Well, that's neat. Well, hey, it's time for some aftercare.
Yeah.
This is on the list of greatest of albums of all time from a lot of different people. What are some of your thoughts when I say greatest album of all time?
Greatest album, like, you think of albums or
That is what I said.
like what? You just want me to list off greatest albums of all time?
If I said greatest albums of all time, what albums come to mind? Let's say 2 or 3.
Abbey Road by the
Abbey
Beatles.
Road, yeah.
Not even
That's
the
a
best
good one.
Beatles album, but okay.
Sure.
Not even
Wait,
the
did you
best.
say-
What is your favorite Beatles album?
Rubber Soul.
Oh,
Okay,
that's a good one.
that's
Sure.
fair. I honestly,
Or
anything from the back,
Revolver.
like,
Sure, that's a good
If
one.
you go Rubber Soul, Revolver,
I actually don't think
Abbey
I've listened
Road.
to Abbey Road front to back.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I was playing it
That
before
one has
it came
Penny
out.
Lane?
No,
Penny Lane.
That's
Penny Lane was a
Magical
wasn't
Mystery
Penny
Tour.
Lane a Lucy?
Hmm?
Penny Lane is not a track on an album.
I think it's
I
on
think it's a
Magical
single.
Mystery Tour, isn't it?
No, because they never put singles on their albums.
Strawberry Fields Forever?
Great song.
Is that on Abbey Road?
That would have
Not at all.
That's not. That was also a single, wasn't it?
Maxwell's Silver Hammer.
That is on Abbey Road.
Nice,
No, that's
nailed
on
it.
White.
No,
Isn't that
Maxwell's
on
House.
Wild?
It's a second track on Abbey Road.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I nailed it.
Oh no, it's a third. No, it goes Come Together, something, Maxwell Silverhammer.
Oh, right.
Come Together isn't on Let It
I'm
Be.
thinking Rocky Raccoon.
Come Together is not on Let It Be. Get Back is though.
That's a good song.
But anyways,
Come Together is on Abbey Road.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yes, Abbey Road is I feel that's just the first one my mind jumps to. What are other greatest albums of all time?
I don't know. We poo-pooed Exile on Main Street, which is up there on many lists.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd put that as as like the greatest album.
Oh, Rolling Stone did. Anyway,
Yeah.
Rolling Stone also put
By the Rolling Stones.
Marvin Gaye. What's going on?
Let's Get On, or are we talking about?
What's going
both
on?
of them are good albums.
The Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life,
Or Intervisions, good albums.
any from that like 5-year period where he was just
He
putting
put out 3 albums a
nothing
year,
but
yeah.
incredible music. What other? There's a lot. I'm talking like if I'm thinking like in the grand scheme. If I want to go more personal, I can like some of my favorite albums are like Crack the Sky from Mastodon.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Sufjan Stevens, Illinois. What else is a really great album?
Slayer's Rain and Blood.
That's a great metal album. That is true.
Mm.
What about you? You haven't provided a ton of input.
I feel like mine is heavily biased. Like In Rainbows will probably be up there.
Yeah.
Slide by George Clanton. It's just a great electronic album. Discovery. Cross by Justice.
To Pimp a Butterfly.
I Love You,
Sure,
Honey Bear, and
sure,
Ziggy
I've
Stardust.
never
Ziggy
actually
Stardust
listened
would
to
definitely be
that.
up there.
Yeah, sure.
ELO, New World Record. God.
Oh, that is a good album. Yeah.
Dark Side of the Moon.
Sure. Or Wish You Were Here, which we've covered before.
Mhm.
What else? There's so many good. It's so tough to say.
Neil Young and Crazy Horses. Everybody knows This Is Nowhere. Great album.
Demon Days.
Demon Days, sure.
Low End Theory by Tribe Called Quest.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. There's quite a few. Dave Brubeck, Time Out? Question mark?
It's on. It
It's
is
a really
on a
good one.
list. Yeah.
Question mark?
I think Rolling Stone called it number 337 or something. It's way up there.
I'm excited to find out if it is next week on Final Verdict. Bye.